Okay, finally. Then I guess Ace was, we think, being hunted. There was a Norman Finkelstein in his house.
Sorry, fellas, I was stuck in Norman Finkelstein purgatory there.
But I thought he was doing. He's coming to get
Like,
you.
what the
He's here to
fuck?
get Slender Man.
Would not stop. Like,
Okay. So, anyway, before we get into the modern day events of Haiti, I figured we would start with, start with the relevant history to the beginning. We'll kind of do a summary, and I obviously, two guys talking history. If you want more in-depth history stuff on what we're going to jump over in this, you can obviously go over there and bother him and say, "Hey, do more Haiti stuff." So to start, I'll tee you up here. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah. And everything went to hell shortly thereafter. So Haiti is actually where Columbus initially landed. That particular portion of the island of Hispaniola, and he found the Tano people, and they didn't get along too well after a while. At first they got along, and then one of Columbus's ships crashes, and he set up a little permanent colony. The Tano people turn around and kill him. Columbus comes back, sets up another colony, starts killing and enslaving the Tano people, and in very short order, most of the indigenous population of Haiti is wiped out. Columbus claims it for Spain, and they turn around and colonize it until about the late 1640s, I think, if I remember correctly. And it gets turned over to France. And this is kind of where most of what we talk about Haiti's history in relation to the Western Hemisphere starts.
The French Santo Domingue was 1625 when it was founded.
All right, 1625.
At least according to Wikipedia. That's just when it starts. The French settlement, at least.
Yes. So it rapidly becomes one of France's most profitable colonies, principally due to the establishment of sugarcane plantations. And this is also linked with the triangle trade and the trade of enslaved Africans into North America and the Caribbean and South America. So a very large African American population is established in Haiti, both enslaved and the local maroon population. And then quite famously, they turn around and they engage in a revolution, a very bloody and violent revolution in the 1790s, which they overthrow the local French government. And France is very rapidly in the midst of its own revolution. So by the time they succeed, around 1803, 1804.
Yeah, I think this is probably the interesting part, is that it coincides with the French Revolution and how the revolutionary government reacts to the revolution.
Yes, they don't really have the wherewithal to go and retake Haiti. Particularly because, this is shortly thereafter Napoleon takes over, and the French Navy gets their the French and Spanish navies get their asses kicked at Trafalgar, so they can't really get across the sea that with a large force too easily. So they settle on a treaty, and they force the Haitians to repay reparations after they have freed the country. In order to afford those reparations, these are crippling reparations, by the way, because it's such a profitable.
I also wanted to add, Maximilien Robespierre, he ended slavery in France and all of its colonies, and I think I've heard it's in response to the revolution in Haiti, but I don't know if that was just a thing that he did anyway.
It might have been. It's kind of hard to say. It feels one of those things. At any rate, they can't afford the reparations. In order to try to make money, they invade the rest of the island, which is the whole of Hispaniola, and the Dominican Republic is invaded in order to get territory and resources to pay the French off. And this is kind of Haiti's problem, is kind of from the get-go. They have been basically screwed by colonial powers. It doesn't get particularly better from there.
Yeah, because I mean, basically, the next major thing that happens is while
United States.
yeah, the United States, while they're putting themselves into debt.
Yes, they put themselves into debt to American companies and specifics, and the companies go to Woodrow Wilson, and who has perfectly happy to turn around and occupy a country that's run by black people, because Woodrow Wilson is a raging racist, amongst other things.
Mm-hmm.
And the United States occupies Haiti then for about two decades, close to almost 3, when you get down to it. And then I'm going to mess this up. The Lavalier family takes over. And Haiti is effectively a dictatorship going forward up until the 1980s. It's an incredibly violent place. They effectively legalized gang rule in Haiti for a period of about 50 years. There are violent reprisals against opposition. There's a reason why Haiti is used as a plot point in the West Wing.
So this is actually something I did want to ask you, because you just got to it there when you were saying they had effectively legalized gang affiliation and things like that. As far as I'm assuming what you're referring to is like the Tonton Macoute and things like that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm a little confused when I like read about this stuff. What was their original purpose? Is it just they're just there to straight up intimidate any of like Papa Doc's opponents, Duvillier's opponents, or is it like they're like some kind of extension of the military? Are they a police force? Like, what was the idea behind that in the first place? Or is it something completely irrational as well? Because as we know, Duvalier at this time, I mean, he wasn't necessarily the most sane person. So,
yeah, Duvalier is kind of, he's kind of the archetype for like the Tropico series too, the kind of craziness that goes on there, and like it's not exactly that it's like, when we think of gangs, we think of a kind of a criminal enterprise that's sort of localized and built into what this is really just a group taking the opportunity to be what they can to the ruling parties in Haiti. If they need intimidation, if they want to sell things, and they do illegal activities in the background. So it is a combination of all those things. It's a military and a police force.
So in a lot of ways, they're kind of like the Swiss Army knife for the Haitian regime at the time.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
And it sort of brings it here. There's been a couple things in the last 2 decades, I think, they kind of talk about. The first is Haiti has suffered enormous environmental catastrophes in the form of an earthquake that is already destabilized population has never recovered from. There was in 2004 there was a coup d'etat as well that kind of ended democratic rule in Haiti.
Yeah, so they call it's like up to 2004. They call it like it's like a democracy period, but part of that time it's ruled by an authoritarian military regime as well.
Yes. So in 2004, sitting president is removed, and a rebel group takes over of Haiti. And the UN decides to intervene at this point, and the U.S. military is involved as well.
And it does not go well.
Yes, it goes very poorly. For one thing, the president that ended up removed and was about to be executed, that we spirited away, accused us of kidnapping him, which is certainly one way to look at it, I suppose.
Yeah, like I mean, it damaged the it damaged the reputation of the UN. This is a big one that damaged the reputation of the UN and their peacekeeping forces, which is probably why, well, I mean, we'll get more into it, but you'll see the decisions they were making in the modern era with like turning to Kenya. It was a UN mission, but it's like a different kind of UN mission, and like kind of putting the US kind of to the side and not involved,
Which is why, me personally, at least, I found it really weird when people were getting so excited that, like, the UN or Kenya or whatever was finally going to do something about Haiti. I was just like you guys not realize this happened before, and it didn't go so great. Like it was.
Well, I'll say, and James might bring in more of this later. Kenya is probably one of the more reliable parties in this regard.
Yeah.
They have the necessary experience, I think, to do the job. I just don't think they have the freed up resources to do the job, to be perfectly frank.
I mean, I don't know. This is definitely more opinion than anything, but I would trust the Kenyan military to do this job. I don't know if I would trust the Kenyan police.
Yes, the Kenyan military has pretty extensive experience dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, because they've been in Somalia since God knows when, and I don't know. But the police, it's like I think this is clearly a situation that's gone beyond something the police can handle. So.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
Oh, if we'd actually like gotten our shit in gear and moved last year, or even just a few months ago, Kenya's police forces, they're not equivalent to its army in any sense, but they probably could have handled stabilizing Haiti, right? Because we needed here a few infrastructure spots and free up Haiti's police to actually do their jobs. But
right, and that was actually, you just mentioned something there I did want to get into. That's kind of like the crux of the reason why this issue has gone on for so long, is that I believe a lot of the fuel depots in Port-au-Prince are controlled by the gangs, if not all of them.
Yes, now very much so.
But before we get into the leading up to more the gang period, there are just a few things I wanted to mention, like like we already said the Columbus thing. I also, this is something that, so there's these allegations of cannibalism that come out of Haiti sometimes, right? And
yes,
and largely there's not a lot of evidence to support it. The evidence is very limited and circumstantial, and it does not actually, like, it doesn't prove one thing from another necessarily. And people say that it's like it's to make them look like savages, to make them look like lesser humans, to dehumanize them and stuff. And I was reading about the slave era under the French, and I read that they literally sent dogs and ripped slaves apart and had them eaten by dogs in front of other slaves. And I was like, just a comparison is like the brutality there. It's like, that's not like, I think eating people is not so bad if you're ripping people apart with dogs,
Well, the thing I would point out about slavery throughout the Caribbean in particular, because a lot of it's sugar plantation based, is it's brutal in a very different way than we're taught about chattel slavery in the United States. So there's a kind of unique horror to United States slavery in that it became self-perpetuating. This would never have happened in the Caribbean. On top of the already brutal treatment that the slave masters visited upon the enslaved, the conditions in the sugar plantations would basically just consume and kill slaves very quickly. They had a lifespan of maybe at most 9 years expected lifespan. And you're right. The slave taskmasters engaged in absolutely horrific behaviors. They just massacred people. Particularly like you're talking about the case of dogs, it would oftentimes be in case of, they would send dogs after people who were incapable of working anymore because they were in these boil huts, or they were in these sugar fields, and they were just being broken into in just being worked till they were broken. It was, and then they would make examples of these people. It was horrifying behavior. It's not surprising at all that the Haitian Revolution occurs and that it's incredibly bloody and violent because it was a reflection of the violence visited upon the population.
And then I also wanted to get into how there's the historic racial hierarchy. Like this, this is like the first time I hear in history the term mulatto.
Yes.
I'm not sure. You can tell me if you've heard it elsewhere before this, but I think it has to be something that does come from Haiti specifically.
There are similar terms used in New Orleans. And there's a very similar relationship actually in New Orleans, which makes a lot of sense. It was originally French. But there is a hierarchy in place in Haiti, particularly after their revolution, that is inverted for what we would normally see, where white people are oppressing colored people, and mixed people occupy a weird middle ground. It's kind of the inverse. And there's a what's the way to put this? There's a the aftermath of the Haitian Revolution is also incredibly violent. It's not a place where stability came really ever, that I can think of, where I can think of a time where Haiti is relatively stable. And it's reflected in those racial tensions there. I want to see
What? Go ahead.
What was the exact word they're using in New Orleans? Yeah.
Mulatto.
Yeah, it's the same word, I'm pretty sure. I'm just checking.
Like that was something like when I was in school, that was a word that I would hear, but I don't hear it anymore to describe people. So it
is largely considered. It's largely considered a slur. In common. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it's not really used anymore.
Mm-hmm. It was like the preferred term when I was in high school. Which is just interesting, you know. So yeah, and then I also wanted to comment because Cuba is next door, so it has an interesting relationship in the Cold War, and just being a communist or being suspected of a communist in Haiti was punishable by death in Cuba under this period when they were being used as an asset by the United States in the Cold War. And that also, Papa Doc in general, there's just, that's when boats started coming out of Haiti and little Haiti started coming up.
A refugee problem emerges throughout the 50s and 60s pretty extensively. They are right next door to Cuba. Also, fun fact, the island of Tortuga is off the coast of Haiti, not that far. So they had pirates for a while, but the pirates were probably better for the overall people of Haiti than anything else that's happened to them, to be perfectly frank. They were certainly more democratic.
Yeah, there was a pirate era. I completely forgot.
It kind of gets overlooked, particularly in the terms of Caribbean pirates, for things like Nassau and other Bahamian islands that have a lot more connection. But Tortuga was a fairly significant political factor for a while in kind of controlling Haiti and arming Haitians and all that. So, plus it's a fun Jack Sparrow reference, so there's that too.
So, and then getting into, it's like, it's civilization is kind of the perfect game because you don't know if you're good and on top of oil until you get to the age of oil, And while Haiti was rich in resources of the past when it was maximum exploitation there, they don't have the resources to really help maintain an economy and recover from everything that's happened to them.
And everyone else around them has a much better tourist economy, even next door.
Yeah. Yes.
Does better with tourism because, like, Haiti ends up being the like final third of the island, which doesn't help. And everyone else is just they're where the cruise ships go and where the cruise ships are flagged out of. So they are able to make money much more easily, and Haiti just can't.
Not only that, you have to sort of think about when there was a spike in tourism, right? After World War II in the U.S., we had money and wealth and resources, and Americans wanted to start vacationing abroad. So, which are they going to pick? The shoddy government that is mostly African, or mostly run by, I guess, people of African origins, or the very mixed race with hot people from across the spectrum, quaint island with a dictatorship that's friendly to the U.S. It's
exactly.
So
it's never been an attractive vacation spot for American money.
And so this gets into what I lastly wanted to get into for context is the deforestation in Haiti. It's probably the most deforested. Which one would you? Deforested.
Yes, that's probably for the best. So, like, it starts early, right? Because in order to build a sugarcane plantation, you need to clear space, which creates for you an incentive for logging too. So that was another thing they were selling out of there. And when sugarcane is no longer viable, they just start chopping down all the trees, willy nilly. So you end up with, yeah, that's I like that. Thanks. Maps are fun. Yeah, a lot of Haiti is kind of desertish now, in a really real way, because they do not have greenery. It's gone. They cut it all down, because they were trying to get ahead of their economy. Haiti is like analogous in a lot of ways. I think for Americans is analogous to the town that used to have the industry that the industry disappeared from, and now it's down on its luck.
Mm-hmm.
It's the national version of that, except it's been their entire history.
Okay. Now, let's lead up to, I mean, we already introduced that Papa Doc introduces the gang warfare. And basically the gangs start integrating into the government, and this leads us up to the assassination.
Yeah.
Because we left off with the earthquake, so.
Yeah. So the earthquake was, it was 2010.
Mm-hmm.
It kills 250,000 people, and there are associated other problems like cholera and disease and all these things you might expect from a place where its infrastructure and its plumbing system just exploded. So, what has been happening?
Haiti is open for business. That's what this. I was looking at Wikipedia. That's what this guy's slogan was.
Yeah. So in 2021, the sitting president was assassinated. This was middle of 2021. A group of foreign mercenaries,
mm-hmm.
air quotes, because they almost certainly were not, carried out the assassination. The acting prime minister took power in the end of July. And this is all happening against the backdrop of rising fuel prices, which is another thing that Haiti doesn't have the infrastructure to support after the earthquake. And this is where the gangs get a little tricky. The gangs are organized and well equipped and unified. Mm-hmm. And they have taken over and exacerbated this fuel problem by preventing the distribution of fuel by taking over their fuel refineries and depots.
Which is pretty much exactly what they're doing now.
Yes, it's been ongoing for the past 3 years,
Right.
and no one's really looked
So
at it.
there is something I do want to like kind of ask while we're still on this topic. You mentioned that the gangs are unified, and you mentioned that they're a bit more organized now. How does that evolution take place? Or do we know what events, like specifically between the time of Papa Doc and Aristide to the time of like the earthquake, what events took place that I guess led to more like organized and powerful gangs in the country?
Well, delineating between which ones are gangs and which ones are revolutionary groups is kind of tricky because they all
Yeah.
act the same.
Well,
but
what's the word? The chimers.
Yes. So
You could just call them that. That's what they are. They're neither a gang or a revolutionary force. They're the chimera guys.
yeah, they're basically what's happening is they are realizing that they have opportunities to take over, and they are deciding, and they're making a series of choices, particularly from 2004 onward, where where the coup happens and government is taken over. They're making decisions based around the fact that succeeding governments are increasingly weak, and the police aren't able to counter them, and they recognize that they have more to gain from one another.
Well, also, I wanted to add the president who was assassinated, the guy we're seeing right now, Barbecue, he forms G9, which is 9 different gang groups that come together. He was actually promoted by the previous president. He was the right-hand man to the previous president. This was very out in the open. And I forgot what the rival gang is.
He was basically like a hitman for the guy.
Yeah.
Like...
He was like, what's the fucking other gang? It's like MCAST or something.
Yeah. You're talking
There's
about Henry.
I don't know. Do the Mauzo 400 or 300? I forget the number they use. Do they fall under the G9 or are they their own thing?
400
they got a lot of attention because they pulled off that that kidnapping of like a bunch of American and Canadian missionaries with another gang whose name I'm blanking on. There's 150 gangs, guys. It's like
I'm trying. The one that's the
like
main one that's the enemy of G9. You know.
Hang on.
But they back the political opposition. The guy who comes in, the other gangs are backing. So, GPEP, I guess. I want to say it was like M something.
Yeah, the information is frustratingly difficult. It is really difficult to pull these groups apart from one another.
What did you say, James?
Non-Brooklyn gang. It's like the Syrian civil war on crack.
Well, that's the thing is that it largely does fall into these two sides of the aisle where it lines up. Haiti's politics are completely integrated with gangs. Like, there is no solution. It's like going forward without Hamas being involved in a government in Palestine, right? It's just not going to happen. The gangs are here, and so because the rival gang to G9 was backing the previous president, not the one who got assassinated, but the one who just resigned.
The one who's stuck in Kenya.
Yeah. So it has been largely, almost two sides of the political aisle and two sides of the gang aisle aligned broadly. But, there are different rivalries in between these gangs because of how they make up themselves.
Yes, Ariel Henry left the country for Kenya in order to say, "Can you lend a hand?" Sorry, that was bad. I just couldn't help myself. And they decided that he can't come back, and he was forced to resign. And that's kind of where we're at. Is everyone sort of sitting there going, "Well, someone should do something," except we don't want the United States to do something.
Why doesn't someone ask Barbecue to be nice? Barbecue is actually very nice. That's the thing. And I talk about this with like Al Qaeda and the Taliban, and when you actually talk to them, they're actually really, really respectful. And that's the thing about Barbecue. He's kind of saying like he doesn't want power, but he's an interesting guy. but he's very, very nice and welcoming to people. And he's very good at selling himself. And he has the charisma skills. Like, he really is like an intertwine between like a gang and politician. But that's the thing is like it's like when you look at some of these guys and they are so nice to your face, like, and then you're knowing like this guy is like known for like weaponizing rape as like a tactic, and then he's here giving me juice, you know.
I think there's a particular facet that happens because I honestly think it's because of the way American police procedural and shows like NCIS portray terrorist groups and gangs and whatnot, is we get an impression that these are like, you know, horrifyingly, like, comically criminals, as opposed to people who are doing illegal businesses and operating with a degree of intelligence that we just don't assign to them in our fiction.
Yeah, I can tell you from firsthand experience, a lot of the like scariest people you'll meet, particularly those who are involved with crime, are not the people you would expect.
They are fairly polite in most circumstances. Yeah.
It depends.
I mean, people don't seem to
depends on
realize. I mean, like,
what gang too, because like some of them just aren't, and that's their thing.
Yes, I mean, that's not a universal rule for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like a lot of people have a very skewed impression of these kinds of organizations.
I think the other thing that people forget too is like the level of violence that we see in like large scale organized crime today is very unusual from like at any other point in, maybe not any other point in history, but most other points in history. I feel like it's a lot higher today.
Yes, I think.
Sorry to cut you off, but generally it's like, you know, everybody's heard this, but like if you know, they get their hands dirty, they kill somebody, it's bad for business. If we can avoid killing people, we will.
Yes. And that's been the general rule, is particularly like through the evolution of organized crime. They have ups and downs, right? Particularly here in the United States, especially in the 1920s with Prohibition. They have kind of like this ups and downs and high points of violence and then low, and then they settle into a routine and it keeps on trucking.
And then someone new comes along and they want to
then there's a problem.
Power,
yes.
So that they up the violence, and it's a cycle. It happens forever, basically, everywhere.
I mean, again, a lot of like, just one example, and I come to this example a lot. It's like Mexico's drug trade. It wasn't non-violent, but it wasn't like it wasn't making TV series, you know, up until the Gulf Cartel showed up in 1995. So
yes.
God damn, this graphic I want to pull up is so fucking small. Ridiculous. I can't use it. It's such like a perfect graphic for what I need though.
So as far as I am aware at this point, running up to the present day, the 20th of March, most of the embassies in Haiti have been evacuated.
Yeah, I was looking at the news earlier, and they were running some evacuations as well, still, and they're preparing for more. Well, let's see if I can get a bigger. Oh, this one looks bigger, because that was just another paper referencing this graph that I want to use. Oh, here's another one. Okay. Oh, this one's so good. Okay, so now this gets into I think the main thing that really defines what's going on in Haiti. So the way it's now being looked at and phrased is that it's not a gang war, it's an active insurgency. And obviously when we hear insurgency, we think terrorism. And obviously a lot of these terrorist groups are further getting enwrapped into organized crime, like, you know, Hezbollah and the cartels in Mexico. So I think this is kind of something up to debate. Is like G9 with barbecue? Is it a revolutionary group? Is it a gang? Is it a terrorist group? Like, or is it an amalgamation of all these things and a convergence? Because technically, this convergence theory between the terror crime nexus, theoretically, when they merge, is when there is a complete black hole collapse. They call it the singularity, where the region then gets sucked into a black hole that it can't escape from.
Which is what's effectively been happening in Haiti for a year. To be fair, I think they declared it a failed state last year. This time, it was 2023, right?
Probably, but it's on another level. So anyway, opinions. What do we think about them? What kind of we have nice things to say? Go ahead, James. Pop off. I've been waiting. You can have your 10 minutes on the mic to talk about barbecue and G9 now.
It's a sticky position, right? Because Haiti's political bodies are basically powerless, right? You can't really do much with them without injecting a lot of outside force, which Haitians really don't want, right? Even last year, when there were street fights and gun battles going on, if you asked Haitians, hey, do you think you'd want outside intervention? They basically just tell us to fuck off. Even though the Haitian government was like, please intervene, please, we beg of you, constantly.
The Haitian government, they made the request at the UN. And that reminds me, I told you I could give you 10 minutes, but I just remembered I put a note here to come back to the game, the you mentioned earlier, if we got our shit in gear when they started asking. So I wanted to, now that we're on this section, I wanted to comment that I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think they deliberately did this. They deliberately didn't want to basically send a force in, so they dragged it out and waited. So it just basically they're going to let it collapse and sort itself out, is what I think. I mean, they're already talking about putting these people in Guantanamo right now. Does everyone know this? Does everyone know?
I beg your pardon?
Yes. Hang on. Let me get a source for you. Go anyway, James. Go ahead. Getting into gang fights last year.
Yeah, that would actually entirely track with the Biden administration's approach towards problem foreign policy subjects, right? In Afghanistan, we, for example, just use an example. Trump started the withdrawal process, but the Biden administration actually, maybe not the Biden or the core of the NSC per se, but Biden and his coterie, they sort of just concluded that, we should just let Afghans handle Afghan problems, which had predictable consequences, especially since we were supposed to be supplying the Afghan military there.
We paid attention.
You could say that it's not quite an isolationist bent on our part, but it's a desire to avoid problems, which is visibly creating bigger problems.
So I just wanted to mention that the hosting Haitians in Guantanamo is not a new thing. So it happened before in 91 to 94. So you see, the camp was an HIV prison camp. Epic, United States, epic. Great job.
Guantanamo's worked out for anything we don't necessarily want to think too much about here. And it's great because Cuba refuses to cash the checks.
Yeah, see, here's the Haitian boat people. I mentioned them. And here's Papa Doc, Jimmy Carter. Can we blame that on Carter as well? Another thing he fucked up? So I think that's the best part is, maybe if we didn't still have people there you know, Guantanamo wouldn't have such a bad reputation to make this seem like the worst idea you could possibly do. Is because it's funny because you see the British, they're like, we're gonna get a boat and put all these refugees on a boat and just float them out into sea, basically, you know.
And not just the British. Basically, that's all of Europe's approach towards handling migrants, right? Because I mean, the U.S. gets a lot of shit for our terrible approach, but
we're one of the best. We're one of the best in the world. It's crazy.
It's a very for everyone here. That's a very sad statement in and of itself. Particularly when Europe spends half of its day playing Red Rover of leaky boats. Very leaky boats that are overfilled with people.
A lot of people die.
You have to actually ask yourself, it's depressing when you have to ask, are more Syrians dying in a given year from Assad's war against the country or European countries just pushing them out to sea to drown? It's just, what the fuck?
Well, George Maloney and the EU they just brokered a new deal. Basically, they're giving Egypt, because Egypt's falling apart, you know, their economy is not doing well. They're giving Egypt like 80 billion or something like that to basically manage the refugee crisis.
Yeah, money.
Just like how they used to pay Haftar to kill the Libyans before they get to the ocean. Or the sea. The sea, sorry.
You guys know that this is unrelated as fuck, but you know Haftar's son is responsible for one of the like largest bank robberies of all time, specifically silver. I think it's the largest like silver robbery of all time.
That is so on brand for Haftar and his family.
I know, he's like, silver chains only. I'm still a religious man. I don't wear gold. They're like, dude, we just saw you kill a guy at the dinner table. What the fuck are you talking about?
It's like,
but he has standards, right?
No, he doesn't. The Haftar family is worse than the Gaddafi family.
No gold is a standard. It's not a good standard.
I think it's hilarious that like I really do find it funny that Haftar got like captured during the war against Chad
because he was too busy boning his mistress than actually doing his job.
Wait, he wasn't even there.
No. His army, or rather, his division was fighting, right? But he was too busy hanging out in a desert pad boning his mistress while his guys were fighting and dying and getting crushed by Chad.
Basically, so the Chadians came and grabbed him while he was clapping cheeks?
Yeah. It's so fucking Haftar. Jesus.
That's hilarious.
Hey, look, I finally found a good graphic for what we were just talking about. So this is immigration. Blue is the best. You can get dual citizenships for both countries, right? So like only this side of the world is the part of the world that actually like works with migrants and helps them. And like I love that Australia is blue as well, even though their migrant policy is shit as well. Anyway, so this is another thing that we've been seeing is that the GOP is like, you know, talking about how it's going to cause a migrant crisis and stuff. So knowing them, they're going to like basically do a similar thing where they're going to be capsizing boats and like pushing people back.
Lauren Southern is going to ride again.
So he's going to sail back through the Panama Canal to get there.
It's going to be a thing. It's. I'm sure Biden is sitting there kicking himself at this point for not addressing it last year, because now it's going to be a thing, an election thing for him. On top of Israel, on top of Ukraine,
on top of Israel, yeah, on top.
And Israel is already turning into a chain around.
Well, I mean, we still have yet to do a character analysis on Barbecue. I mean, so Barbecue, he requested that what is it? Aston Tyler? What was the last guy, Prime Minister's name? They're French, so I forget their names so quick.
The one who got assassinated?
No, the
Richelieu?
one after.
Henry.
Errol Henry.
Henry, yeah.
Okay, so Errol Henry, that's the main demand barbecue has always had. So when this guy took power, barbecue and the G9, they started rebranding themselves as revolutionaries and spreading this revolutionary message. And I think I've seen James post, where it's like, can we not worship him this hard as a revolutionary, But like when we look at the history of violence in Haiti, there's worse role models, I guess, like what it takes to be a revolutionary in Haiti. Like the Haitian Revolution was led by somebody who owned slaves. He was a free black man who then owned slaves and led a slave uprising because he empathized with it because there was all this racial tension and stuff. Barbecue as well.
Barbecue is very similar.
He talks about how he literally says we're here to help the black people. When he's saying that, he's talking about fuck the light skins.
Which is an easy thing to say in Haiti because they make up such a small proportion of the population.
What do we think of this one? Go ahead.
They do not. They're such a small proportion of the population. They're a very easy target, and they enjoyed for
y'all see this fucking comment?
Status.
I was letting him talk before we addressed it.
Sorry.
Oh, wait, what is going on here? Hang on.
It's a lot to process.
I'm not sure what's worse.
I was trying to get a more radical person in here, so I wasn't the most radical out of them, all of us.
You succeeded.
Yeah, I mean, I meant like in the discussion. Anyway, barbecue, revolutionary, you were saying.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm still recovering.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, James, you made plenty of tweets about this guy.
He's clearly trying to rebrand himself as a revolutionary, but there's an obvious contradiction in what he's doing. When the gangs are blocking off the infrastructure on Haiti, right? They're blocking food, medicine for Haiti's 100,000 HIV patients, fuel, which is necessary for everything to run. Well, not everything to necessarily, but like it necessary for things to move around or big things to move around. They're blocking all of this off, while simultaneously proclaiming their intentions to liberate the country. It's an obvious contradiction, which is like only explicable if he's just being cynical.
See, and here's where I think I it's not that I disagree, but I also I think there's more, and I say liberal framing as in being nice to him, not like a liberal perspective, but what revolutionaries aren't contradictory? Lenin, Robespierre, the American revolutionaries said they were founding a free country while they had people in shackles. So I think the hypocrisy does not make somebody less revolutionary in comparison to a force like Hamas, where it's more of like all bullshit. And it's really only about, like their Islamic version of dominionism. I think it's a different here, where he does have more legitimacy in this role, especially with the gangs integrated into the government itself. I would say that technically they did a soft coup. They did a bloodless coup. They completed a revolution here. And he was very clear that this was the time that it was a revolution. And I think whether he believes that or not is one thing, but it's another. It's like the Al Qaeda higher ups, how we know that they don't necessarily believe what they preach, right? It's the rhetoric that unifies people, and I think that's really what a true revolutionary is. Slavoj Žižek goes on about authentic revolutionaries and stuff like that. Um, so I think an authentic, really revolutionary is somebody who's a hypocrite. I think to be a true revolutionary, you also have to kind of like die in the revolution, and it has to be like passed on beyond your legacy, and then it gets passed on to like Stalin or someone.
Well, I mean, the other thing to kind of point out generally is that hypocrisy is something that people always grab at, and ultimately no one cares about when it's on their own side. In any context, like we're very concerned with the other guy's hypocrites, but not very concerned with our own. So, like, even if Barbecue is a hypocrite, he's not any more hypocritical than any of the other actors that are involved in this exercise.
I mean, I don't think he's more hypocritical than the government or more criminal than the government at the end of the day.
No, or the United States when we're getting down to it.
And yeah, because I mean, these forces are all implicated in like this. It's like
Because we played as much
parasites
of a
feeding each other.
we played as much of a part as getting Haiti here as anyone else. So, like, probably more than most, to be perfectly honest. And that's the thing, is we never really get to a it's like I say, everyone is very concerned with everyone else's hypocrites and not that concerned with their own.
Okay, what's the point of dying in a revolution? First, when you die in a revolution, you become deified, like Jesus. The classic example here would be Robespierre, right? So, like, while the French revolutionary government immediately collapsed, like we wouldn't have like forms of Marxism today, even fascism that came later, without those movements that were started in that revolutionary period in France. And like that guy was the government was totally a terrorist government. They were a revolutionary terrorist government. They advanced banning slavery throughout the world, so like while they're horrifically doing these things and cutting people's heads off, they legitimately did advance social policy, unlike the American Revolution did. The Americans want to act like they're the ones who like projected democracy onto the world when it wasn't. It was because they killed Robespierre in the real revolution.
What's the line? If your revolution actually has time or any staying power, it's going to solidify into a government, and then its ideas or whatever ideas it's preaching, even if it doesn't really follow them, they're going to wither and die.
Well, that's also why I quoted Zizek, because he has the whole thing with the authentic revolutionary. It's like a quote. He's like, it's just a quote about how they're always skeptical of what comes after the revolution. So they have an understanding that the revolution must go on forever. That's what makes a revolutionary, is that the revolution can't end, because they know if the revolution ends, then it metastasizes into something. Exactly. So that's what I mean by true revolutionary is somebody who dies during the revolution. I'm talking about Zizek there. That's literally what happened to Jesus. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, like, and I think this...
And it didn't get out of hand at all.
This is why I look at a lot of Mujahideen as revolutionary groups, like they like, you can, that's funny because, it's like contrasts with their critical outlook on Islam with the idolatry. And then like, they also worship Mullah Omar, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
So anyway, this was a big demand that he's always had, is to drive this guy out of power. And it's when we say it's like, oh, are we supposed to trust him? Does he like money? Are you the United States? Shut the fuck up. Like, all right. So the thing is that I think the thing that I last saw him saying was really interesting. Just he was talking about how just let Haiti do this for once. Let them have their own vote for once. Let them decide for once. Like he's literally talking about advancing Haiti's democracy to the next era. And at the same time, there's like CARICOM forming a transitional government that really Haiti has no say on whatsoever. Which I don't think the people are going to respond too well to that.
Yeah, it is weird coming from the security guy, but I don't really think there's anything that the outside world or an international power can do at this point. Last year, maybe, but they basically dominated all of Haiti's infrastructure. The only way to take it back is by causing a bloodbath, which is not going to help anyone. You sort of just have to let barbecue cook.
We should also talk about how he got his name, because we have the watermelon salesman, we have the hot dog salesman, and then we have the chicken man. Did he sell chicken? Was that what he sold?
Yeah, barbecue had a chicken stand.
Yeah, so you have all these guys who started with simple food stands who end up being
dude. Okay, so me and Uday were talking about this the other day. Modi sold tea. Okay. All right. Fucking barbecue sold chicken. Erdogan sold watermelons. Okay. Prigozhin sold hot dogs, allegedly. A lot of what's said about Prigozhin's story is like half truths, if not just all lies. But allegedly, he sold hot dogs. So
we're looking for the next great revolutionary among food truck vendors.
So, dude, what all I'm saying is we need to make like a database of all the food vendors worldwide and monitor, because we gotta figure out what the fuck's going on.
My question is does he just claim that's how he got his nickname? Because everyone says that he's known for burning people alive in their homes, and so it's like, which one?
Yeah,
which one is it? I think this is him trying to use his charm and
honestly
down.
If you've worked in the service industry, you can reasonably see why it could be both.
Here's the thing. I mean, that's true, bro. I've worked with some tap people on the line. You know what I mean? Like some absolute goons, bro. Here's the thing, though. Of the four names I mentioned, there's only two of them, which are Erdogan and fucking Modi, that we actually have pictures of, like, selling their product. Like, we have a picture of Erdogan at, like, a watermelon stand. There is a picture of Modi, like, at a tea stand. You know? I've never seen... Well, no, okay, to be fair, though, Prigozhin was 100% a caterer.
Prigozhin absolutely was Putin's caterer before he was in charge of Wagner.
So that's true. That's true. He was 100. We don't know about the whole hot dog thing. The whole hot dog thing might be bullshit. Like the whole thing where he's like, "Oh, I was making the sauce in my mom's house." Like, shut the fuck up, Prigo. We know you weren't doing that.
What about this mysterious picture of Erdogan sitting at the feet of Gulbuddin Hikmatyar? Huh?
This is probably that's extremely cursed, inexplicably cursed. For anybody in chat who doesn't know, Hekmatyar is like the fucking worst guy in Afghanistan, which is a very
I don't know. I think you could debate him or Dostrum.
Oh no! That's the thing. Dostum allegedly didn't commit his crimes. Hekmatyar definitely did.
So definitely.
Like, I mean, he even has like a villain name, Gulbuddin Hikmatyar, bro. That he sounds like he comes from fucking Krypton.
Fucking NCIS villain name.
Before we move on, I just wanted to say that YouTube demonetized us for doing this type of neutral coverage with the Houthis. So we're trying to start an NGO. We need the funding to do the paperwork for the NGO. The purpose of our NGO is to help journalists in places that are conflict zones or have limit of speech, where they're actually, risking their lives to do the news, and help offer the protections and resources for these journalists to excel and do their job safely. So if you donate any amount, $1, doesn't matter. You'll get all the benefits until we'll change it after we found everything. But for now, you can get your name at the bottom there if you donate and all that kind of stuff. And then here's Junk to tell you more.
We might have people watching this show, but you can be the difference maker, because we just need our audience to be paid members, and then this show can be around forever. So you can make that difference. Click join now.
Thanks, Junk. I have this meme, though, that I just had to pull up real quick. And then before we get back into who's cooking who.
I'm going to take a quick run out the door, take the dog out.
Yep, go for it. Come on, buddy. My computer's so slow, bro. I might crash. If I do, I'll be right back, because the computer's just locking up right now. Okay, still here. Epic. Anyway.
Damn, they're cooking them.
So
who wants to talk about Gaza in the interim?
Well, I was gonna just comment on talking about the security solutions. I because I told Ace I was like, Ace, you ready for me to go in there and defend barbecue? So I go ahead.
I mean, as far as barbecue goes, have you seen the Vice documentary about him? They got like this one guy to like fucking follow him around for a couple days.
I was just I don't know if it was Vice, but I watched a documentary on him earlier, and it was when the previous president was still alive, and it was very interesting. But I think also another one autoplayed that might have been Vice, but it's mostly in French, so I'm not listening and I'm doing work in the background.
All right. But in any case, as far as barbecue goes, he's a very he definitely has that revolutionary pizzazz to him. You know what I mean? Based on what I've seen in his interviews and stuff, he's very much like he's definitely he's for sure trying to give off that impression. From what I can tell, there is like a very he's almost like Castro when he fucking visited New York for the first time. He did this thing in his interview where he's walking around, he's just wearing like a shirt and pants. He doesn't have a bulletproof vest on. And like, I think the interviewer asked him something about why he isn't wearing a bulletproof vest. Rookie mistake as an interviewer, by the way. Never ask, all right, of like, someone, who's been in war or whatever the fuck, why they're not wearing a bulletproof vest, because they're going to dunk on your ass like Vince Carter, okay? What happened was he asked him, "Oh, why aren't you wearing a bulletproof vest?" He's like, "Does it look like I need a bulletproof vest? These are my people. This is my community. I take care of these people." Da, da, da. It's like, damn, all right, like it's kind of like it's the same shit that happened in New York, like when fucking Castro visited the UN back in like the '60s or whatever. Some interviewer asked him like, "Oh, we hear that you wear a bulletproof vest." And he like unbuttons his shirt. He's like, just to show that he's not wearing a vest. He's like, I don't need to wear a vest. I have a moral vest. It's like, so barbecue's definitely got the revolutionary pizzazz about him. Me personally, I'm not going to call the guy a revolutionary. I mean, maybe by Haitian standards, he might be. I don't know. He seems to be at the kind of crossroads of a lot of suffering. And this is kind of my problem with a lot of terms like revolutionary and, just a lot of things that come with armed struggle in general is, the more you read about this stuff and the more you research this stuff, and mandatory Dune reference, this is something Dune gets correct, is any group of people with guns, including the state, like state armies and stuff like that, usually not good people. Individually, they're probably all right. They're probably good people. They're probably all decent on their own. But when you put them into this like amalgamation of people with guns, they usually end up like the sum of their parts end up committing horrible, horrible, horrible things. And this goes for everyone everywhere. This goes for Haitian gangs. This goes for like Palestinian groups in the West Bank. This goes for like Israelis in Israeli settler groups. This goes for fucking Somali pirates. This goes for Sahelian jihadists. I mean, obviously they're not all the same. This goes for like Kurdish militants, the Turkish military, all that shit. Obviously they're not all the same degree of bad, but they're all some degree of bad, and it's mostly bad. You know what I mean? Even though you can understand, I'm not trying to like pass judgment or anything. You can understand their motivations. You can understand why they do these things. Ultimately, in a lot of cases, it's just a necessity. Like, it's just what it comes down to. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you are going to be a bad person, like just for the sake of making it another day or whatever. So, I mean, that's just the thing at the end of the day. But I don't know what I want to understand is, like, who are the people calling him like, are there any, like, I'm sure there are people in Haiti
yeah. No.
who might see
So
him as a
that's what I was looking
revolutionary.
into. I was looking into like some of the like certain media platforms, and you know they not any you just look at who else they follow and work with, and you can just be like, oh, it's those people, right? So I think a big thing though is, especially in America, the romantic nationalism here is extremely tied to romanticizing what a revolution was and romanticizing what revolutionary is. When revolution is, there's an echo on someone's end, John. It's might be. Let me know if it's going, because it might just because Ace is on his phone and stuff. Anyway, what was I saying?
What revolutions are?
Oh yeah. They're violent. And also normally they fail. They do not go well for the revolutionaries. And if that revolution then succeeds, oftentimes it starts into a period of incredible state violence, even if they end up being like the usurper that bring the state violence. That's why I say, like, there's no difference between Robespierre and Mullah Omar. They both used a scripture to get their legitimacy. Like, they both had these rituals. Like, he holds up the cloak. Rob goes out and does the call to the supreme being.
I mean, I'm more so interested in, like, kind of the Haitian perspective on barbecue, particularly from Haitians who may like it, because I grew up around a lot of Haitians, and my understanding is like the gangs are viewed somewhat like ambivalently, like it's just like kind of a part of life. Like, sometimes you may need to go to the gang for protection. Sometimes you may really fucking hate the gangs because they like stole your motorbike or whatever. It's kind of just viewed as like a facet of everyday life. I'm sure, like, there are a lot of people that I've talked to who are like, yeah, I would rather we didn't have to live with them, but we do. And then there are some people who even see them as like a pro. It's like, nah, like, this is like, this is a pro for us. We have like protection, we have food, da, da, da. But again, it's just viewed very kind of as is. Not to like kind of in any way, like, how do you say it, minimize their suffering. Obviously they've been at the hands of the gangs, there's been a lot of suffering, but there is an attitude of that in like a lot of people's minds. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone online say anything positive about the situation in Haiti, quite frankly.
Yeah, no. Well, there is nothing positive to say. I'm just trying to
anything good about like barbecue. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, I think well, for starters, I think that it's dependent on the situation, right? Because like if we hear him out, right, this is what he's stating, right? Basically, that as long as this dude resigns, he'll basically step down and allow a government to happen, and like that's kind of the attitude that I've heard the most from people, whether they're like pro for anything, and mostly because like little Haiti in New York, not so much like people who are on the island that I've heard from, besides like secondhand interviews I've seen other people doing. But it's just like they just want to be able to choose their own fate for once, and that's kind of the attitude. It's like just like they want to. It's like let it. I think that's why I'm kind of against what the United States, the transitional government. Like I think from an imperialist perspective, CARICOM is probably like, it's in their interest. The Dominican Republic said they'll invade Haiti if it keeps destabilizing. They're building a wall to, like it's the second biggest border wall behind the United States, I'm pretty sure.
And Mexico doesn't have to pay for it this time.
Well, the
Actually,
Dominicans really aren't happy about it.
Well, I don't necessarily blame them.
Mm-hmm. Considering the history of them being
invaded by Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was the Dominican government, I would be concerned. I don't think, though, that necessarily the Dominican Republic can stabilize the situation any. Like, I feel like they would have almost as bad a time as anyone else if they went in.
Well, I'm just like, I think CARICOM, it's understandable why they want to be basically running the transitional state, because, the Caribbean islands are obviously going to be affected by everything that's happening in Haiti. So they so like, from an imperialist perspective, for them, the safest thing to do is basically just, rule over Haiti and contain it. It's like they don't have. If you're CARICOM, what is in it in your interest to build up Haiti and actually stabilize Haiti? Like, what is Haiti going to give CARICOM in return? What does Haiti have to benefit CARICOM? Like,
materially nothing. The only thing that it does is governments are paranoid of the contagion of violence, right? Especially if they're tiny and have militaries and shit, which is like most of them.
That reminded me of a joke I was going to tell you. I was going to ask how much of this is Thomas Jefferson's fault?
Oh, probably all of it.
Because like, he's the one who like came up with the whole "we have to contain the slave revolt" thing.
Yeah.
So
to be fair, the United States looked at the Haitian slave revolt with a fair bit of concern.
I bet.
A fair bit of concern was involved there. It was the South especially.
They drew the wrong lessons, right? Instead of trying to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't like use a system that's probably economically inefficient, is going to not benefiting most of our population, and it is pissing off, or not even pissing off. It just you have like a third of your population in chains. Another third of it is broke as shit because the bottom third are in chains and they can work for free, and the people above them can't compete with free labor. So maybe you should. The lesson they drew from it should have been, okay, maybe we should, I don't know, choose an economic policy that is less likely to get us beheaded. But TJ wasn't very.
To be fair, even the neo-Confederates of today, who, if you've observed my Twitter interactions, I have a constant fun with, even the neo-Confederates of today don't seem to have learned this lesson. So,
I think the United States definitely has learned its lesson with dealing with Haiti, and that's why they're like, we're just going to fund whatever happens here. What we don't want, just leave us out of it, guys. But that's the thing. It's like Kenya. What would they get out of it? They would just look really good on the international stage. Kenya is developing. They're probably going to be the central power in East Africa. There's kind of a competition between like states like Rwanda and Kenya, but I think Kenya is just naturally eventually going to blow them out of the water and just be the dominant power in that region.
Rwanda has an inbuilt brake system in their ability to develop. I think that because they're going to hit tiny. Very soon. They're very small,
and they're trying to compensate. They're trying to compensate for their size by trying to grab bites out of DRC, which
we talk about a lot.
Yeah, for the folk who don't know, or probably most 99% of people don't know because it's never really covered anywhere.
Actually, we cover it. Like Ace does a story on the DRC, like every LPEC.
Look, people, man.
If you want to be up to date on the DRC, we're the people reporting on it.
The situation pisses me off so much because it's so fucking blatant. And nobody is saying anything besides like the fucking State Department. Every like will be like
a lot of the PSL types are always talking about it, which is interesting.
I think it's like there's this. It's not so much that people are actually talking about it. There's this like now that everybody's like aware and woke and their like third eye is open and shit. People like say that there's a genocide going on in Congo and that we need to like pray for the Congo and shit, and like all this fucked up shit is happening because of the minerals, but they don't say anything else. They don't
Yeah,
explain anything from.
But they
don't
say
get
that on their cell
any
phones.
other context. Look, man, I don't blame them for saying it on their fucking cell phone. Look, like, you know, there's no way around it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
you're
yeah,
gonna
I
have
know.
a fucking cell phone, but like,
But it's funny.
it is funny. But it's like they never add any context. It's like, dude, you're talking about a country with 120 armed groups and maybe like 100 different valuable minerals. Just blame one or two of them. Just add, like, research one or two of them and then blame everything on that one or two. Blame it on the my for all I care. Like, you can't just sit here out here giving no context when there's that much information available, you fucking slobs. Like,
I prefer to blame the Belgians.
I mean, realistically, you know, that's not a bad way to start, but like, look, I don't know. It's so weird to me. It's like the way people talk about the Congo is so fucking weird. They talk about how all this bad shit is going on, and they like treat it like they're gawking at these fucking Africans and shit. Like, oh my God, look at all these like displaced people. It's like, why are they displaced? You haven't said anything. You haven't said why these people are displaced. You're just saying they're fucking displaced. So I don't know. It pisses me off in like a weird way.
Anyway, I'm not up on the history, but am I not correct that the Haitian slave revolt was only possible because much of the actual population were new slaves?
So yeah, Titan, we kind of talked about this a little previously. But the reason that Haiti is, or Caribbean slavery is unique, is that they're bringing in a lot of new slaves all the time because it was principally sugar plantations, and they're like these are people who are being basically consumed by this work and made unable to work very quickly. So you see a very large influx of slaves, and there's race mixing, and the Haitian Revolution is largely able to happen because yes, there are more slaves. The population of enslaved individuals on Haiti to enslavers shifts in the 1780s and 1790s to be the majority is enslaved people. So eventually they realize they're in charge, or not necessarily in charge, but they have they're positioned to start rebelling, and they do so.
They actually have like a whole like a voodoo ritual to meet up to plan the revolution.
I've seen their call the treatment conditions were brutal even by the standards of other places, and yes, well, more slaves were killed on a regular basis. Yes, not necessarily that more slaves were killed in the revolution, because there aren't that many other examples to go by.
Oh yeah, because it's the largest slave revolution and also the only successful one to ever happen.
Yeah, so like you'll have cases like Nat Turner's Rebellion or John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry that we talk about a lot, and we stand John Brown at Two Guys Talking History very heavily, but those are
Terrorist or
very
revolutionary?
very small in comparison. How's it going, Gabriel?
Was John Brown a terrorist or a revolutionary?
Yes.
Which one?
Both.
Okay.
Like, he's inarguably a terrorist, but sometimes terrorists are bad.
And that's kind of the point that I circle back with, is that it's what's happening in Haiti now. It's not just being described as a failed state; it's being described as an active insurgency, right? So, I think it's very clear, because one of the defining traits for terrorism is political motivation. The gangs clearly have political motivation. They're clearly not doing it to just enrich themselves here.
Well, yeah, and I will kind of make this argument a lot, that the line between terrorist, guerrilla fighter, and gang member is much more blurry than we like to pretend it is.
And this is why I'm going to come in here and say that the term terrorist has no real meaning whatsoever. The way the term terrorist is used nowadays means how you feel about something. It is not an objective term. if you think somebody is a terrorist now, and you can blame a lot of different governments for this, you can blame the Turkish government, you can blame the Pakistani government, you can blame the American government, but it's not because it isn't strictly defined as terrorism or whatever you may think it is. It's just how they feel about it.
I don't
Terrorism
disagree.
at a point in time definitely had a real meaning. Like there's definitely like an objective definition of terrorism, but I don't think so anymore. I think a lot of the times, especially at this point now, with like the way organized crime and like militancy overlap, it's even more difficult. Like as far as we may know, that like terms like militant may not even really mean much in the future when there's like more, if there is more overlap with organized crime, I should say.
I mean, it's like trying. It's like
we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, James.
Can anybody tell you the difference practically between Hezbollah and, I don't know, the Sinaloa cartel, right?
Not much.
Don't they work together now?
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they work
And
together.
that's why Hezbollah is always my point, is because Ace and I define them as a crime group. Because where is the terror attacks that they're doing? Shooting mortars at Israel? Come on. That's not a terror attack. Shut the fuck up.
I think, well, here's the thing, too, and this is why I do like the term militant and the term militancy. I don't know why we started phasing out this word, but I feel like a lot in like the 70s
It's coming
and 80s.
back.
In the 70s and 80s, gang members in the United States were referred to as acting or being militant. Now, they weren't referred to as militants, but they were referred to as being in such a way. So I think it's an appropriate word, because I think it's like it's an objective word for someone who commits violence, right? This is like the whole thing that they teach you in like your fucking like first class on like violence and conflict, where they talk about like the violent specialists, right? Like you can just put all these people into the thing about like violent specialists.
Ace or John, can you unban Senior Monkey? I was trying to see if I could pin his comment.
I don't know.
Sorry, Senior Monkey. I was trying to pin your comment.
He might only be banned from you.
Okay.
On your YouTube, so you might have to go to your YouTube chat, but he should still show up in our chat in general, but he won't show up on your YouTube chat.
Okay, let me go see if I could try.
So I assume you wanted this. Hezbollah runs the government.
Yeah,
I don't even know.
I mean, they have. Do they not have like?
Oh, because they are on your channel too.
Not a majority.
Too.
What is it? Hold up. They're not a majority in the Lebanese parliament, but they're like they're not the majority, but I think they're like the largest single group. Like
well, also the what is it? It's not. It's are they? Is it LF? I think they're the Christians themselves. Who the president is? He's
the largest group. Look,
he's aligned with Hezbollah, so
if you ever try to decipher Lebanon, it will be replaced with something new and even more inextricable.
Like, so I think that there is argument that they do control the government. I think there, and that's why like when we do our terrorism tier list, we put Hezbollah really high up because they are a legitimate government entity. You know, that's one of the main things that we rated things on. Like that's why like the IRA was at the top, not because we like them, but because I think that's one of the things that a terrorist group always ends up doing, is that it eventually becomes a political party.
Right. Well, I think that's kind of
not all of them, but you know what I mean.
Make that point about guerrilla fighters and terrorists not being necessarily that far off from one another, because like the whole like you go to a classical military studies class and you learn about guerrilla warfare, and eventually the objective is to become conventional warfare, and then the government that you're taking over. So like it's who is a terrorist ends up being from where you're sitting. And like to Ace's point, I think it's absolutely true that people go by establish who is and is not a terrorist by vibes these days. I had a interaction with someone on Twitter who would like to think of themselves as a political heavyweight. They are not, for the record. Who? It was we were talking about Andor, the Disney show, and this individual was like, "Oh yeah, the Rebel Alliance isn't terrorists." And I'm like,
"They are,"
and like they absolutely are. Like we're talking about the show Andor in specifics. I'm like, Well, didn't they literally abduct an imperial official's family in the show? Like, I can't imagine a much more classical act of terrorism. It
Like
was Brianna Wu, incidentally, who thinks that the Rebel Alliance isn't
Of
terrorism.
course it was.
I
Of
like
course it was.
I really like playing XCOM 2, right? And I just call it terrorism simulator because literally that's what XCOM 2 is about, is that you're the terrorist force taking down an alien government ruling Earth. And also I modded it so I have suicide vests.
Oh, of course you did.
And you just send the suicide bombers in and you use those guys. You know, and then, you know, it's the rookies are cheap. They're easy to recruit. Anyway,
I will. I feel sorry for that, Senior Monkey. So I'm adding you as a moderator. So, you should be unbanned or unhidden on my channel at least.
I mean, you tell me. Anyway, so
let's go. Okay.
I think, I don't know. you know me. I'm Mr. Optimist. The invasion is never going to happen. You know, that's me. You know, like
Ooh.
I'm totally going to be the guy who says Russia's not going to invade Ukraine, and then they invade Ukraine. Like, that's me. I'm always on team like nothing ever happens. So the outlook I have on like a possible downscale of violence as coming into Haiti, I don't know how to go about it. Like,
as the resident, shit's gonna hit the fan. It's gonna be terrible. I'm actually cautiously optimistic in this case, right? Not for the current humanitarian situation per se, because the gangs holding infrastructure is gonna kill probably at least a few hundred to a few thousand people in the short term. But it looks like the Caribbean governments and the U.S. government are folding pretty quickly to the gangs, right?
They should. I think that's the best policy.
Yeah, kind of have to fold and say, "Hey, we're not going to make a new government. We will help you run elections where you guys can put forth your own candidates, but we're going to leave it all up to you. And we'll help you set up the infrastructure. We'll try to clean up the mess that you've made without like trying to take over shit." But
yeah, well, so to the invasion would have happened from the Dominican Republic. They were the ones talking about invading, and I was trying to I literally can't. You know how I said I'm about to crash? I can only have this screen open. I can't open another tab. It just infinitely loads. But another country, I forgot which one specifically, but it's near Ghana. They sent people not that long ago. They sent resources and I think food, maybe troops and stuff right before all this shit went down. They were like, we're not waiting anymore, and they sent like a few dozen people.
What is it? Cote d'Ivoire?
Hang on.
Cote d'Ivoire.
Cote d'Ivoire.
Ivory Coast in our language.
It wasn't them. It was a small. It's like it was one of the smaller ones. Hang on.
Senegal. It's definitely from Frank Afrique.
I want to say it was Benin.
Okay.
Yeah, they sent some people.
Oh, yeah. Benin offers 2,000 troops. That's a little weird. They have a few problems going on just to their north. I'm not sure what they're planning there.
Hey, shout out JNIM, dog. Open up 2 fronts.
Fuck.
I'm fucking around, but like that is a serious problem if JNIM does like really actually like not this little tit for tat shit they've been doing the past 2 years, like really actually take a foothold in Benin and Togo. Shit is about to get real, and I like, dude, I'm gonna be, and it's gonna suck for people like us, because we're gonna be stuck explaining to people what the fuck JNIM is.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they were involved with the last one too, the last UN mission. They contributed 32 people.
Well, I want to get to Etzel's point here. Is Kenya deploying really considered an invasion? No, Kenya was requested by the previous Haitian government.
What the fuck is Jane in? That's a question that we worth pinning.
It's okay. Hang on. No, I got an answer. I can answer that real quick. I got something for it.
It is a guide, not my people. It is guide. Guide, yes.
Yeah.
He's pretty much right. It's Al Qaeda in Northwest Africa, basically. Like,
yeah. Jane, fuck? I'm gonna butcher the IS.
Just
Which is it?
The Al Qaeda coalition of West Africa.
Yeah, it's
what I
probably
call them.
faster, everyone, to just say where Al Qaeda doesn't have a franchise now.
Yeah.
I think the independent principality of Sealand is safe.
oh well, thank fucking God. Thought things were about to get bad there.
All 28 of them. None of them are Al Qaeda, as best as we can tell.
Shit. I can't remember which tribes are the ones that support Jane. I'm pretty sure the Tuaregs, right?
They say no.
Okay,
A bunch of them.
Let's tread carefully here. We're not going to say We're not going to say the Tuaregs.
Not every Tuareg.
What?
There's just. You're right. Like not every Tuareg.
There are certain subsets, not even certain Tuareg tribes, certain subsets of Tuareg tribes who benefit from supporting or kind of like, letting slide what JNIM does. And the same goes for other groups like Fulani and who else? Like the Dozo, stuff like that. Now, this is actually a very interesting topic because, and this we're gonna have to. I've been trying to find someone who actually knows about this because every Sahel expert I talk to is not they know about the Sahel, but they don't know about these dynamics. Where it's this is something they do. This is something that
you hear that. So you hear that, Frau Lena? This is where your time. Come on, where are you?
Well, it's because this is a thing that a lot of these jihadist groups in the Sahel do is they plan massacres and executions to sow discord between neighboring groups, and it makes it easier for them to recruit people from certain groups or people from certain large families within those tribes, things like that. It's a really it's not complicated, but it's very interesting and it's very hard to explain to a Western audience. I feel especially a lot of this African tribal violence kind of goes over people's heads in the wrong way. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm trying to find someone who not only knows about the conflict but knows about those dynamics to come on this show and talk about.
Well, I just opened up the UN Security Council's page on West African terrorism, and it's extremely unhelpful.
Oh yeah.
This is a paragraph. Come on.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, I can send you way better stuff than that, man.
I mean, we talk about it enough. Where who actually we watched News Borat, and he didn't have bad coverage of it.
Really?
Yeah, it was still angled in a specific framework.
What kind of framework? I've never actually watched his videos, but I just see him a lot.
Oh, News Borat?
A clip or two. Yeah, I've seen a clip or two.
Oh, because when we make fun of him and stuff. So he has this own channel, and it was just the thing is that it was way too of him just going on and on about things, and but it was I didn't look at it for too long. We clicked off it. I was like, this actually isn't a bad video, but it was framed he's part of the whole BRICS. He said something about BRICS being a part of it and stuff. Something like that. It's News Borat. Yeah, it's a 5th gen meme guy that we'll pull up and watch for when our audience is really good.
Yeah, but, if you want to talk about West Africa, they kind of are the XCOM of Africa at this point.
I want to talk about Haiti mostly.
Fair enough.
So, President Barbecue.
Oh, can we talk about before we get to barbecue? It might be important to point out that the Haitian government functionally doesn't.
They're gone.
They're gone. Their security services they were never really armed to begin with because I can't remember if it was the U.S. who disarmed them or if the Haitians disarmed them themselves after the U.S. helped somewhat. They after the Doc Duvalier did his massacres, right? Haiti security services were just intentionally crippled so they wouldn't have any repeats of the Tonton Macoute, right? But the U.S. still exists, and we're still a shithole when it comes to smuggling guns. So the gangs over the years, they accumulated weapons, they accumulated more and more weapons.
Yeah. I think that's a
And the
really good
Haitians
point.
were still using pistols. They didn't have bulletproof vests until like 2 years ago, and they didn't have AR-15s and assault
Oh, I
rifles
forgot
until
I can't
last
Google.
year.
Can't Google and pull up references of all their American guns because my fucking internet crashed because I wanted to pull up a Google Dean Hick Miatar meme.
Oh, it was a great meme. I saw it.
It's one of my go-tos. That's why it's saved in my meme folder. So the church is also a big part of this as well. So like the church in Haiti helps through commuting. They communicate like basically it's like Qatar, right? It's like we can't talk to Al Qaeda directly. We're too good for that. It's literally against our policy. So it's a naughty thing to do. So we work through the church and things like that. So that's going to be the key thing is seeing what's going to happen next. But as we were saying, like there's nothing like what's the imperial interest for Haiti, because people want to say, because obviously it has suffered from imperialism, but there is a whole narrative that it's just United States imperialism that's destroying Haiti, right? But if Haiti stabilizes, what happens? Like what's the point of keeping it destabilized? There's nothing to extract.
Well, yeah. Like I said, they're out of trees.
They do have a lot of tree planting programs though. Not enough.
That'll be excellent in 60 years for them.
Like their main manufacturing base is like literally where I don't know, India was 30 years ago, just t-shirts and shit, right? There's nothing to extract except actually we would literally only benefit from stabilizing Haiti at this point if you want to actually make use of its fairly large population. So it doesn't really make sense for, I guess, the typical imperialist designs. But like, just straight up and to the point, the U.S. doesn't give a shit about Haiti.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing is just like, why should people care about it other than these are human beings, But it's like, how people are. I mean, look at some of the people they already support and the things that they support here, right? So it's like, it's at the end of the day, it's like, how does this affect me? Like, am I still, is it going to make my Starbucks coffee more expensive? And to the average person, they probably, who knows if they even know where Haiti is on a map, right? Let alone like what's going on there in the crisis.
I feel like there's got to be enough Haitians in the United States and like
so like there is a lot. So like New York has little Haiti, obviously this Florida and New Orleans have Haitian, and then also Massachusetts also has a big Haitian influence. So
but I mean the other thing too is like I also feel like I don't know if it was just me, I was quite young at the time, but in 2010 when the earthquake was happening, I felt like there was a very, this was in Canada, though. I lived in Canada at the time when I was young. There's a lot of Haitians in Canada. But I felt like in general, there was like this very jolted response from both the U.S. people in the U.S. and Canada who wanted to help people in Haiti. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. We're kind of schizophrenic like that in the sense that we'll see a natural disaster. And as long as it's on our television screens, we'll say, hey, we should stop that.
It's kind of interesting to see what causes people like supported maybe like 10, 15 years ago, and like how people have just forgotten about those same places today. Like take Sudan for instance.
Yeah,
Joseph Kony still
was like one of the biggest activist causes in the world back in like 2003 and 2004, and now it's like no one even gives a fuck.
Joseph Kony put in the infant in infantry.
It's infantante.
I was talking. I just put Joseph Kony as a reference in the new LTEC that's out for Patreon members right now. Because I found out he's a Dominionist.
Oh God, yes.
So he literally has the same religion as the Speaker of the House. He has the same political beliefs as the United States Speaker of the House.
And isn't it the Republicans who are trying to loosen child labor laws?
I mean,
But
yeah,
yeah.
the episode is all about how the Christian far right is like networking between governments and how they oppress people in Singapore, and how the U.S. is directly involved with it. It's really, really interesting episode, especially if you care about LGBT issues. So it's the uncut version that has extra stuff in there, like explaining their economy and their political economy, more advanced things. And the edited version that's going to be free will be released whenever we shoot the intro. But if you want to go watch it, all it is $1. You just donate to the Patreon, get your name below. You can go watch that right now. Anyway, back to Haiti. With what's going on there as far as, the ability to form a stable thing, it's also a matter of like economic recovery. There's just so many issues. Like, I don't like, it's not like Africa, these African nations that are in dire fucking humanitarian crisis and stuff, they still will have Wagner and shit there because they have something that these people need. So
something to exploit in the
So-
case of Wagner. And yeah, I think that is the thing. Like a stable Haiti is going to require a choice of like almost a concept of angel investors, like someone who decides to set something up in Haiti to make it economically viable. Because
the
if there
church
isn't,
does a lot of work there, the French church, but
yeah, if there isn't an economic viability to it, then I don't really see the situation changing.
yeah. And most Americans probably think Haiti is in Africa. Well, I was joking the other day that Kenya has every right. It's in its imperialist ambition, right? That's their empire technically in Haiti, right? Because like if you're doing like the Roman thing they claim so much, right? Like I think Kenya has more legitimacy invading Haiti than Russia does Ukraine, Obviously joking, but now I think just because of the gangs always, well, not always, but especially being a part of the government now, like like they have to do something to be part of the economy. So we can't take out the gangs because they're the only ones actually making money at the same time. Like I was about to say the rice crisis. Now this is another thing. This is like, so the rice that comes in on this aid, right? So it's controversial, but I wish I could fucking pull up another tab. But there's like a lot of arguments against the rice aid given to Haiti because it's caused the rice crisis, because people stopped depending on it basically, government aid made them lazy is kind of the argument going on that they're blaming for the rice crisis.
That's I hate that kind of argument because like the downstream argument is, well, they didn't fix their problems because of the rice. So like I don't necessarily think that's true. It's a really hard argument to sustain. Like we talked about, like the earthquake and a cholera outbreak and like disease spreading.
Yeah, this is literally the take, though, that the government aid destroyed the farming industry, and that they should have supplemented the farmers instead of supplementing the people. It's like the whole like teach a man to fish, he'll eat forever type thing.
Very rarely does that work out the way people think it does.
Where is the rice? Nowhere. That's the issue. It's not there. It's gone. So
it is Haiti's rice is gone, and the U.S.'s rice has arsenic in it. So
epic.
The rice that we're exporting to Haiti has arsenic in it.
So
yeah,
I guess we can get jovial about like crazy solutions that have a 1 in a million chance from happening. Dominican Republic takes over the entire island of Hispaniola and just annexes Haiti. What do we think about that? Is that a good solution? Is that going to help Haiti if they're just integrated into the Dominican Republic?
If that ever happens, the Dominicans will never shut the fuck up again.
They already don't. This is the stereotype in New York.
Dominican Republic Manifest Destiny.
Holy shit.
I mean, why else would they be invading, right?
Poppy
What are they
is
going
mine,
to invade
Poppy.
for? To stabilize it? No, they're going to occupy it. It's going to
He was
be a
joking,
de facto
Titan.
state, So
Yeah, no, it's very much a. I don't think the Dominican Republic is going to actually invade. I think they recognize that they're going to have more headaches than they get out of that.
mm-hmm. They're just going to build their wall harder.
Yes.
We also tend to understate. I don't know. Did you guys see those recent threads by Dominicans shitting on Haiti?
Yeah, I mean, it's.
See, if there's no more Haiti, then what will the Dominican Republic complain about?
I want to say in Grand Theft Auto, there's a whole storyline where it's like the Haitians versus the Dominicans in one of the storylines. It might have been the Liberty City one where you're the Russian. It might have been that. It's hard to remember because I don't really play video games, let alone like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, I've actually never picked up a Grand Theft Auto game.
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
I 100%ed San Andreas. So I got a little map out. I got all the collectibles.
Well, yeah. I had no chance of being normal because I played like Harpoon Classic and Jane 688i as a kid.
Jesus.
But now let's go with like other like wacky scenarios. Let's say like Emperor Barbecue. Like maybe
I think that's pretty plausible, actually.
They federalize. He used to be a cop, right? You federalize
the police
gangs, right? It becomes more of like a gang coalition. Like you have how you have the mafia come to the table with all the families, right? So they
all gotta kiss Barbecue's hand and bring him the chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if Barbecue actually did own a chicken stand, I wonder, like what kind of chicken do y'all think he made? Do you think he made like grilled chicken on? Because for some reason I picture like grilled chicken on a skewer, but I was also thinking maybe he made fried chicken.
He probably made the Great Haitian chicken.
Yeah, like
yeah.
Caribbean is normally barbecue style where they put it on a big stick and hold it over the fire.
He was making like he had like a good marinade on it, and it would like fall right off the skewer, and you just like chop it up into like some rice or some shit. Dude probably made some good ass chicken.
My favorite thing about him, and I wish I could pull up tabs to show this, but he has his own towel boy.
Barbecue does?
Yes. So
that sounds about right, to be honest.
Look, I'm serious. Go look at in any interview with him. There'll be a guy next to him holding a white towel, and he's constantly wiping his forehead. And that's all this guy's job is to follow Barbecue around and just wipe the sweat from his forehead.
That's amazing.
I think that's pretty fucking cool, considering he has like a
decent job. I mean, it's a decent
considering
gig.
He does a lot of rape.
He does kill people
and rape.
Yeah. Oh.
So I just think that's some like elite shit that like
it's
not
like it's not like it's a terribly difficult job. It's not like a Matt's Gate grade forehead where it's like 6 foreheads high.
Yeah, and he like carries his guns for him too. Like if he'll be holding the gun, and like it's very interesting if you look him up. But like we look at Haiti's history, Barbecue being the emperor, is that going to be worse than Papa Doc?
I don't think so. Not really.
50-50. It's a toss-up.
I mean, the gangs already are so integrated in the government, so
we have to see if he starts to form his own death squad. That we might have to, I don't know,
starts killing political opposition and stuff like that. Yeah,
but his position is so dominant as it is. He might not need to. Depends
Well,
if-
yeah. It gets back into what we're talking about revolutionaries, right? And how the revolution oftentimes metastasizes into a bad government. And it would basically be the same thing, really. He's already done a lot of his like killing.
And like,
If
go ahead.
If you were to go, well, I'm in charge now, I don't really think anyone would have that much to say about it unless they're outside of Haiti.
Well, he claims that that's not what he wants. He's always claimed that he's not seeking power. He's not seeking a top spot of power. He's always made the state that he's, going for the, black people, that he's a revolutionary against the president who just resigned. Now it's just like, all right, he resigned. Now honor your end and give Haiti, help, Haiti form a democratic election. So like, I think like I think just vote.
Yeah.
Like fuck the transitional government and all that shit. Just fucking have snap elections that are controlled by gangs keeping people from voting and stuff, I think a snap illegitimate election might have the most immediate
positive
effect.
Yeah. The status quo is just straight up not gonna work. I'm not sure why the international community is trying to like do anything here, because it clearly can't, right? You can't do the only thing the US can do is literally invade Haiti, like functionally do. And that is clearly not a good idea because, well, what's our track?
Didn't they like not Errol Henry?
It's a quagmire. We're not getting
just
out.
Got ousted, right? I think the US liked the guy who got killed.
Yes.
Yeah, we liked Moises, a juvenile, but like also he was also kind of a felon. So like,
yeah, but what I'm saying is like, so in theory, we also worked with barbecue in the past, because he literally like propped, like barbecue was all over, like he's basically like, this is my best friend barbecue, like it was very blatant and open how much he promoted him. So I think that, like, because the guy came in, he was supposed to be a transitional council that holds elections and never did. And the United States was like, you need to hold elections. You need to hold elections. For all we know, the United States were like, good, he's out of there. Now we can work with barbecue and get shit done. Like, for all we know, that's what's going. Because like you look at the CIA and like they talk about like Jelani in Syria, right? It's like he's the best option that they have. So why wouldn't they?
Sorry.
Yeah.
On this podcast, we stand Jelani. At least I do. Yeah,
he's all right. He's fine. He's the best option.
Yep.
We can't promote violence, or else we'll
he's in the category of he's out of line, but what else is there?
He's out of line, but the alternative's literal Assad or ISIS. What the fuck?
Or Turkey.
Or fuck.
So then we also, an occupation by the United States. If a United States went in, actually did an occupation, probably pretty unlikely, but like, what do we think would be a result of that scenario? Would we see stability from that, or that continue?
I think it would be UN 2004 on steroids.
Historically,
well, that would be the next one, is the UN mission. It would be. That's what the United States would be. So it would be a UN-backed mission that the United States, makes sure that they're using Africans because they don't want to see white people pointing guns at Haitians. And
plus, I think if we got involved in Haiti, Ukraine would give us a very dirty look for the rest of our lives.
What else? Go ahead.
I'm not even sure if at this point, if we could throw together a coalition, but there's no way we could really get them into Haiti without actually making it look like an honest to God invasion, right? Because we can't just land at the ports, because we have to show up in military vessels, and they'd see a bunch of gray ships and think, oh, the fucking Americans are here again. fuck those guys, let's shoot them. Or we cross the Dominican Republic's borders, and well, that just looks worse, right? Because of the whole little genocide thing that the Dominicans did a few decades ago.
Predator drones. You will never see it coming.
Oh, I'm gonna use Predator drones. That would. Okay, we look.
My resolution: airstrikes. Bomb them. Bomb them. Keep bombing them. Bomb them again and again.
Oh, yeah, that's probably what it would boil down to. Even in support of an African coalition or even if we were spearheading a bunch of African peacekeepers, which would necessarily have to happen to actually get them in there in the first place, it's just not going to look great. I mean, even if the Kenyans acquit themselves as they would, because they actually would probably do a very good job of it, there's no good way to spin what would functionally be an invasion, right? At this point, even if it's an invasion to throw out gangs who are dominating infrastructure.
The other thing that I could think of is that might happen is something like a siege, where, like a blockade, like we did with Yemen, that caused an even bigger crisis. Like, what do we think of the odds of something like that happening?
Very low, unless Trump gets elected and there's like a single refugee boat that crosses towards Florida, and then predictable results from America's.
Yes, while we're currently
Those guys, political party,
quagmired in Yemen and Israel and fighting over Ukraine aid, I can't really see Biden wanting to start something here in this hemisphere. Like really anything. Like I can see him very privately paying someone else to do something, like Kenya or something, but not anything substantive.
I could definitely see like if we get a Republican administration, I could definitely see them taking, because I don't think they'll ever actually do anything to Mexico, but I could see them taking out that kind of like, I don't know, bloodlust on Haiti somehow.
Well,
I don't think it's likely, but I could see it happening.
Mexico could potentially get involved here too if they want to. I mean, they've been talking about basically being the. Well, they probably won't, because they don't speak French. They're down with Cuba because Cuba speaks Spanish. They're down to be the intermediary there because they speak Spanish. So yeah. So what do we think is actually going to happen next here? How long is the scale of suffering that we're seeing now going to continue? Who is actually going to end up deciding Haiti's future?
Oh, fuck.
This is the hard question, right?
Yeah, well, it's not like anyone has an immediate interest that springs to mind, right? Which is what we were saying earlier. There's no one whose interests are immediately threatened here. So they can kind of get away, like most of the countries involved, like France or the United States, can kind of get away with, calling it someone else's responsibility.
Even though,
I mean, ultimately, foreign policy is not really based on altruism.
No. It's based on interest.
Yeah. So, like the thing to do would be like, whose interests are threatened? Haitians. Oh well, and it's cold, but that's kind of the calculus that'll be made. And so, like, who's going to fix the human suffering? It'll probably end up being the French branch of the church.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
if anyone is going to try.
CARICOM is definitely concerned, of course,
but only insofar as it doesn't spread to them. Not because they want Haiti to be stable.
Yeah, well, they don't want refugees. Just like how everyone is like, we support Palestine, but we're not opening the door. Like that's Egypt and Jordan. That's how they have always been.
Well, actually, it's unrelated, but there's actually an interesting calculus there in the sense that the Egyptian, Jordanian, Saudi Lebanese governments, they are actually genuinely perfectly fine with Palestinian refugees. But they only stopped accepting them after they realized that forcing refugees out of Palestine was becoming a trend. And they recognized that, Israel is trying to change the reality on the ground. Well, no, we're not going to allow this because it's their land. B, it seems very aggressive, and we see how Israel paints its maps, right? What are they going to try next? Where does the Jordan River stop? Or where does everything west of the Jordan River stop, right? But it's not necessarily, it's a mixture of disinterest and interest, which is hard to hold in the head, in the mind, right?
You're talking about the Caribbean.
So for Gaza, for the Caribbean, it's just straight up disinterest.
Yeah, that sounds more like it.
You can in the case of Gaza, right? You can actually not necessarily if you squint, but you can somewhat ascribe lofty ideals towards the kind of shitty things that the Egyptian and Jordanian governments are doing. Not so in the case of the U.S. and Haiti, right? I mean, Haiti was a U.S. puppet for decades. The American soldiers committed a few massacres in Haiti during our occupation.
Executed the communists, supported the government executions of communists.
Yeah, we supported the death squads. There's no... when it comes to Haiti, we're kind of just the assholes in this situation. There's no easy way to cut it, right? We're just being dicks.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily see a way to not do that. Like, it's inarguable that Haiti would not be here if it wasn't for us. And it doesn't seem like doing the same thing we've been doing is going to get them out of the situation.
Yeah, because it's like we could have helped out a year ago. I mean, we could have done a lot more a long time ago, and put it in a condition where it could thrive. Well,
this
not
is
thrive.
ongoing since 2018, which means we've been this explicit situation. We've been watching and going, I don't know, for close to a decade
and just
now.
the fact that it's on the tectonic plate and ravaged by earthquakes, bad earthquakes, constantly. It's really hard to like build a house on a grain of sand.
But to Fudge's most recent question, nobody's blamed wokeness yet, but they've blamed a lot of skin color or melanin.
Yeah, that's the thing is that they always say, because they look at Haiti, and then you have the cannibalism accusations that come in, which
or the kind of the cultural fear around voodoo that we tried to create in the United States.
Yep.
Actually, the Dominican Republic's probably the most vocal about the race disparity here, right? Because under Trujillo, they made a whole big point of saying, "Oh, we're whiter than Haiti, so we're better than Haitians," right? That was an entire thing that played into the genocide. He straight up wanted to make Dominican Republic or the DR as white as it possibly could be. That was an entire policy plank that he had. And it spilled into DR's education system, and a lot of Dominicans believe it. It doesn't actually track with reality or data, obviously, right? If you compare Haitian Americans to Dominican Americans, Haitian Americans actually outperform Dominican Americans when it comes to household income. But it's clearly, it's just straight up American style brainworms, essentially.
Yeah, it's classic racism, writ large.
And even there's even still racism within Haiti, because they want to say it's like a black nation, right? Also, you want to talk about a white genocide? Let me tell you something about Haiti. But seriously,
the Haitians ride with the Poles and not for the French.
Yeah,
congratulations, we have all been canceled.
Yeah. So
Why?
anyway, like that there still is like, and like that's what I say, like people think Afghanistan is like, it's just the whole 5 races thing that the American census recognizes, so stupid, because you go to Afghanistan and it just breaks down immediately who's what, and
It
that's
breaks
like,
down immediately everywhere.
yeah, like
Buddy, you literally
there's
just have to come to my family reunion. It'll break down everything. Never mind my family reunion. Just sit down and have dinner with my family once. It'll break down everything. Just me, like, and me, my parents, and my siblings, and it'll break down everything you know about race.
but the point is that there still is that racial conflict. There is an element of underlying race going on in this conflict as well, and I think that's something that's really slept on. That's why I've mentioned it a few times. But anyway, what do we think? Anything else we want to talk about here? I mean, we pretty much, this projection is maybe it'll be okay. I think the church being probably the morally best stabilizing force involved.
It's just,
Ugh, God.
I think the summary for this episode might be just a wave of the hands and a depressed sigh. Fine, send in the Chomo Patrol.
I guess.
So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Catholics. I'm sorry. I just had to. It's
guess we got to give barbecue a chance, and then maybe we'll all have a nice dinner together, and he'll help cook.
Uh-huh.
What are Haitian weddings like?
Fun, I hear. Like
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
Like they got it. What do you think they're crazier than Dominican weddings?
Probably.
It's probably about the same level.
Yeah, about the same level.
All right, fellas, I gotta sign off for today.
Yeah, we're signing off anyway. We're closing up now.
All right, cool. I'll see y'all later.
Later, Gator.
And wild crocodiles.
Anyway, any last words, closing comments from anyone?
Go if you're gonna go subscribe to 5th Gen. I throw a link in our chat.
You subscribe to 5th Gen.
And then go also, obviously, go support
the 5th Gen NGO, because you guys have no idea how many journalists are working around the world in war zones. I'm not just talking about Gaza, right? Now, how many journalists do any of us know from Myanmar, Burma, or Congo, for that matter?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're actually people going and covering conflicts up close and personal, and literally nobody knows about them.
And they're dying for it.
Yep.
Yes.
So, all right. Anyway, thanks everyone for coming out. We're also going to stream the regular stream later in a few hours when Jack comes around, and talk about some stuff going on there. So thanks for coming out, everyone.
Yep. Have a good night.